Is MSG bad for human consumption? MSG is a flavor enhancer added to many foods. MSG is generally considered safe for human consumption, but must be included in the food label. MSG itself does not have a pleasant taste, but enhances the flavor of other ingredients. MSG has a bad reputation, especially in Western countries, for causing headaches, sweating, nausea, thirstiness, and other feelings of discomfort, and is termed Chinese restaurant syndrome, as many people experience these after eating at Chinese restaurants. In the 1960s and 70s, restaurants serving East Asian cuisines were generalized as Chinese, even though there are many different and distinct cuisines. Some Chinese restaurants will even put out signs to indicate no MSG is used in their restaurant. What brought the Chinese restaurant syndrome to the forefront? The CRS term was first introduced in 1968 by a Dr. Robert Ho in a letter published in the New England Journal of Medicine, where he described his symptoms after eating in a Chinese restaurant and called it the Chinese restaurant syndrome. A cascade of letters followed supporting and rebutting the presence of Chinese restaurant syndrome. It was particularly sensitive as some considered it racist to attribute the symptoms to a Chinese restaurant. So, is CRS true or a myth? To answer that, we need to understand what is MSG. MSG is the abbreviation of monosodium glutamate, the sodium salt of glutamic acid. Glutamic acid and the carboxylate salt form called glutamates are naturally occurring and commonly found in all living cells, but only the free form of glutamates have the flavor enhancement effect. Free glutamates may be found naturally in tomatoes, fermented soy products like soy sauce and fermented bean paste, steak sauce, Worcestershire sauce, yeast extracts like those contained in Marmite and the Australian favorite Vegemite, and certain cheese. Glutamic acid and glutamates are approved food flavor enhancers, with MSG being the first that was isolated and commercially sold. The flavor enhancement effect of glutamates was discovered by Japanese chemist Kikunai Ikeda, who isolated it from an edible seaweed called kombu. In particular, Ikeda found the sodium salt to be the most soluble, most palatable, and most easily crystallized. Ikeda named MSG Ajinomoto, or essence of flavor, and founded the eponymous company Ajinomoto to sell MSG as a commercial product. Many of these glutamate-rich items are commonly used in East Asian cuisine, like kelp, seaweed, fish sauce, and soy sauce. Thus, even if MSG is not added, these glutamate-rich ingredients are commonly used in Chinese and other East Asian restaurants, and thus the attribution of these symptoms to East Asian cuisine and studies of MSG have not established a causal link between MSG and the described symptoms. However, the CRS symptoms are the same as hypernatremia, which is a high concentration of sodium in the blood, and may be caused by salt poisoning caused by excessive intake of sodium as table salt. In adults, salt poisoning to produce severe symptoms is rare, as a huge amount of salt needs to be consumed. However, there are people who may be hypersensitive to glutamates or salt and may experience these symptoms at levels tolerated by most people. Some scientists have argued that adding MSG to food may actually be good, as it enhances the flavor of other ingredients and hence require less salt to be added. Taking MSG in moderation is not harmful, and this is true for all food. Even consuming large amounts of water can be lethal, and it is the quantity that is the key. The use of MSG in glutamate-rich food is widespread in East Asian cuisine, but it is by no means limited to these cuisines. The fact is, many other cuisines use MSG and glutamates as an ingredient, whether directly or indirectly. MSG is just one example of a glutamate and should not be the scapegoat just because of people's fear or ignorance. The bad reputation of MSG is a myth.